beauty, okay? That's what I see when I look around this room, okay? That's what I see when I look almost anywhere. It's my disease, I suppose. I'm going to ask you guys for a show of hands. Raise your hands if you think the image that we're looking at is either beautiful or cool or in some way appealing to you. And I'm going to go through a lot of images, so keep your hands up. Put them down if you don't, okay? This is the sky on Miami Beach. This is the view from my rooftop. Hands still up. Machu Picchu, Peru. Hands still up. Pyramids, Sphinx in Egypt. Hands still up. Corcovado in Rio de Janeiro. You guys recognize this? The Coliseo in Rome. An iceberg, a picture my friend Camille took in Antarctica. A delicious espresso. Hands down. Okay, no. Hands up. Guys, this is boogers. Hands up. Wow. This is mildew. All right. A lot of hands still up. This is the plaque on your teeth. Cool, right? There's a lot of stuff, guys. Dust, cat fur, fabric, insect scales, pollen, and insect remains. Okay? Printed circuit board. Some of you guys said this was boring earlier. Right? Okay. Some messages that I heard earlier today from you is that some things interest you, some things you find boring. But I was astounded how many hands were up just now, looking at some of this stuff that you've acknowledged as gross, that you've acknowledged as boring. Okay, your hands were up. Maybe you found the images beautiful, maybe you found them interesting, but they were certainly not worth taking note of. Okay, and one quote that I really like from Jane Jacobs is, "To science, not even the bark of a tree, or the drop of a pond water is dull, or a handful of dirt banal." Okay, meaning not like this. They all arouse awe and wonder. Okay. So I ask you, what is it that brings you awe? What is it that brings you wonder? What is it that makes you want to peek out the blinds of your consciousness? Okay? Ask yourself. This is an important question. Okay? Ask yourself, what are the kinds of questions you ask yourself? Okay, we're here for GEMS, right? Girl engineers, mathematicians, and scientists. Those are all they're kind of different things, although they overlap, and I know that you guys had a lot of questions about that today. So what I would urge you to do is to ask yourself, what kinds of questions are you asking yourself? Are you asking yourself kinds of questions like, is blue blue? Okay. Or why, or do your questions begin with the word why? Okay. Do your questions begin with the word how? How do I get this water to not flood? That's more of an engineer type question. Okay. Why does water flow? Maybe that's more of a science kind of question. And is what? Well, it's harder for me to think about this for math, so let's maybe take this offline. But the kinds of questions that you ask yourself are going to be the kinds of questions that help you figure out what kind of path is going to be the most beautiful to you. What kind of path is going to give you the most awe and you the most wonder. Okay? So, a little bit about me. What is it that I have chosen? What beautiful path have I chosen of awe and wonder for myself? Well, I show you some art. Does anyone know this painting? The Fountain of Youth? Yes, some hands. Congrats. You see some people coming in on the left-hand side, you know, old and tired. Get in this pool and come out on the other side rejuvenated. The Fountain of Youth, right? And this is the inspiration for the work in my field. My field is tissue engineering, stem cells, and regenerative medicine. Okay? And the goal of our work is to try and engineer spare parts for the human body. Parts like the heart, parts like bones, in order to be able to extend our lives. Searching for this proverbial fountain of youth in this way. So how do we do that? Does anyone have any cell culture experience? couple hands, not many, okay? So cells, right? They're the building blocks of our body. Billions upon billions of them living in our body. Most of them aren't even human, conspiring every day to keep us alive. What's really interesting is that these cells can live outside the body, too. You take these cells, you can put them in these petri dishes, and you can give them food, as long as you keep them sterile, throw them in an incubator, and you look at them under the microscope, and they grow. Isn't that amazing? These cells inside our body, they don't have to be inside our body, okay? They will grow wherever they are comfortable. So they grow in these petri dishes, but getting these cells to form more complex tissues is much more of a challenge because the cells are homesick. The petri dish doesn't feel like their home. And so in order to grow tissues out of these cells, we need to do a better job at copying their natural environments in order to get them to not just survive, but thrive. And so we call this the biomimetic paradigm, copying nature in the lab. Okay? So biomimetic, biology, mimetic, like a mind, copying. Okay? So what are we copying? We're trying to use what we call scaffolds, which are three-dimensional materials on which we grow the cells. We try and get those to mimic as closely as possible what these cells would feel in the body. We add cells to the mix. We add some schmutz, as my supervisor likes to call it, which is growth factors and all that stuff that those cells need in order to get them to thrive. And we give them culture media, which is like sugars and salts and all those things that give them their nutrients, okay, their food. And then we kind of throw those things together in technology that we call bioreactors, and we grow these cells, okay? Now what's really interesting, and the focus of my work, is actually this next part, this culture period, okay? And you're like, what's that hammer? Why is there like an electrical thing? And what is that weird squiggle? These are my attempts at showing what we call biophysical forces, okay? You are not a static creature. You, living, beautiful, living beings, are not a petri dish. Okay, you move, you generate electricity. Did you know that? Okay, every heartbeat that you generate sends out what would it be like? It would be like a lighthouse, like a beacon of energy. Every single heartbeat. Okay, and you can measure it. And if we were to hold hands, you'd be able to measure my beating heart on your brain. Okay, we are electric beings. Okay, and so this is something that we need to copy in the lab in order to get the cells to grow. Our blood flows, so we have movement within our bodies of all kinds of fluids, and we need to copy that as well. And so what our lab really focuses on is this is what we call the biophysical cues, the physical forces of mechanical, electrical, and shear stresses that the body produces just in daily life. And then the goal is that you put all this stuff together and then boom, you get out a heart, right? Well, not so easy as we'll see. But this is the idea. This is the blueprint. And so the focus of my work has been cardiac tissues, but a lot of people are working on all kinds of other tissues. And so bones, which are very mechanically active, you would imagine that the enabling technology to get those cells to grow is going to be really different than what you would need for cartilage. Cartilage is crazy. There's almost no oxygen inside your cartilage. Did you know that? So it's a very different place to live. It's a very different habitat. Maybe it's more like Machu Picchu as opposed to the Corcovado. Okay, the cells that to feel at home, the cartilage cell, a chondrocyte needs a very different environment. Vascular tissues. So what your blood vessels are made out of. Very different than cartilage or bone or cardiac. And so we need to really empathize with these tissues when we're designing these bioreactors in order to figure out how do we get those cells to feel at home. Okay? So I'll go more in depth with the cardiac tissue because that's the subject of my PhD research. Okay? So our bodies are electric. Well, whether you agree that Sookie Stackhouse is a human, up for grabs, okay? Or Pikachu. But anyway, you get the idea. Our bodies are producing electricity. Okay. Do you know how we produce electricity? You should take my test. Oh, yes.
Well, actually, as